stress is the trigger that kind of sets off all of these negative emotions, these cascading emotions. How do we manage that? And there's two ways. How we respond defines our path forward, short-term and long-term. We will consume, seeking solace, release, and temporary fixes. Or we can connect externally, internally, and find healing and joy in the world around us. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Live Deep podcast, where we help you conquer harmful habits and build your strongest body and healthiest mind. My name is Jesse Karajat, your host and guide on this journey, also the founder of Ultimate Fitness. If you don't know me or haven't listened to the show, just a quick little about me. I'm a military veteran from the Marine Corps, former healthcare executive turned health coach, certified personal trainer, and now founder of Ultimate Fitness and host of this show. If you're new to the show, welcome. We're so glad you're here. You are jumping in at the end of a series. This is the conclusion of a series called Control Release. And I'm going to be honest, if this is your first time joining us, I'm a little sassy. I'm feeling a little, I think sassy about does it. Coming back after a week off. It was spring break. It was supposed to be a break. It was definitely spring. Took the kiddos to Disney. Specifically, started with Disney, went on a Disney cruise, got off the boat, went back to Disney. And I guess what I would say is this: if you've ever had, or in the future, if you have a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old, Disney's great. It's magical. Not always magical, though. I will say that there were moments. I mean, there's some irony here, and wrapping up a series about control and how to respond when you lose control. How you manage stress. I'll tell you, going on a Disney cruise with a 5, a 3, and a 1-year-old, it will stress you and it will challenge you. So there were many times on our little cruise where I was kind of laughing to myself, thinking, "Wow, let's see if I can put these tools into practice." If you've ever been on a cruise, you know that, and I had forgotten because it had been years since I was on a cruise, but you know that one of the things that they do not long after you get on the ship is they make you all go, by all, like every single human on the ship has to report to this section on the ship. I don't know what this thing was called. It had a name at the time. It felt like it was some like ancient nautical tradition that they're upholding, but they make you go to this section of the ship. For us, it was a restaurant. For some reason, the tables were covered in white tablecloths. I don't know why that was going on, and you basically sit there for an unspecified amount of time, for an unspecified reason other than it's a safety check. And you sit there for a long time and you just kind of wait. And the staff of the ship are just standing there, and they're Disney staffers, so they're like extra animated, but inevitably they're standing there just staring at you. And I don't know what they were doing, honestly. If it's a safety thing, I mean, I was sitting there thinking, like, do they have people going around like looking for holes in the in the ship, or maybe some people that didn't get off the boat the last cruise? But I'm telling you, you're going to get a sassy version of me today. But I'm sitting there, and if it was just me and my wife, I mean, whatever, we would just sit and have a conversation. But when you have a 3-year-old having a full-blown temper tantrum, I don't know if that means the same thing to everybody, so I'll explain. A full-blown temper tantrum is screaming at the top of one's lungs, flailing with the maximal intensity possible for the longest time measurement. It felt like eons, if that's a thing. So when you're me and you're sitting there and you're holding this screaming, flailing, intense toddler in a quiet room with a bunch of Disney staffers and fellow, I guess, sailors, we'll call them, staring at you. And that's day 1, hour 2 of this cruise. Internally, I was going, holy smokes, this is going to be like this, huh? So I think I handled it okay. What I basically did was I held my child and looked at one of the Disney staffers and very calmly asked, "Why are we here?" And I was able to hear her answer over the screens. And it was essentially, "This is a safety check." To which I asked, "For what?" That's the baby screaming. Didn't really go anywhere. So what I proceeded to do was just stand there holding my child screaming, staring at all of the staffers, just looking at them. I don't think I had to really say anything. I was just staring at them. And then finally, I don't know, again, it felt like eons, but after about 2 minutes of that, One of them finally volunteered and said, sir, if you want to take your child out into a lobby, I think that would be fine. And I said, I think that's a good idea. Sharing more details than I planned, but trust me when I tell you this, that was one of what feels like 47 instances in which I was losing control internally and externally, and I had a choice of what I was going to do about it. So we tried our best, my wife and I, to create what they call magical moments in Disney, and the girls and my son, they certainly had magical moments. So it was worth it. But gosh, when I tell you, it was stress, man. So I'm coming back with some fresh feedback and anecdotes on what it feels like to struggle with stress and control, and how do you adopt a healthy mindset in those moments and just make the best of those situations. Look, we can't always get it right, but when you spend your time talking about, reading about, exploring, listening to shows like this, you can just get better at it. So I'm happy to report that while I wasn't perfect on this trip, I definitely was a better version of myself, and that's all we can strive for. So again, new to the show or returning, this is wrapping up. And just a recap of kind of where we've been so far in the show. We started off with this Venn diagram, right? And I'll jump to it for the folks that have been with us all along. But picture a Venn diagram. On one side, you have a circle. It's called control. On the other side is release. And in the center is presence. And presence is the goal. Presence is where we find joy. It's where we can be in the moment, connect with people, find happiness and contentment and all the good things that life has to offer. Truly experience it. And the problem is that so many of us experience is that because life these days happens so fast, there's hyper connectivity, there's so many things just competing for our time, there's so many threats and fears out there financially, professionally, relationally. We find ourselves running this pace that's just unprecedented in terms of humanity, especially because of technology. And we try to control the outcome of our life in so many of those areas. And when we fall short or feel out of control or anxious and stressed, we jump right over to this other side, and that's called release, or you might call it escape. And those are the things that we do, or I would say the things that we consume to find release and relief from the discomfort of the pressure from trying to control. Things like alcohol. That's the most ubiquitous, that's the most common and unfortunately effective tool that we have to change our internal state from discomfort to comfort. It's fleeting, but it works in the moment. Things like digital distractions. We talked about zombie scrolling on our cell phones. I'm going to make something up here, but like death Netflixing. That was terrible. I tried. Just aimlessly kind of streaming and picking shows that bring no value, but it's just to turn our mind off. Things like gambling, more insidious things, sexual addictions, pornography, essentially anything that can establish a fleeting release of dopamine in the moment, which again, that's the joy compound, the joy chemical in our brains. But we're searching and we're consuming. And that consumption can be a substance. That consumption can be a form of entertainment. That consumption can be essentially anything we put into our minds or our body to hit the off switch so we feel more comfort. And we talked about, and I'll wrap up the recap here, how those first instances of finding release in the things that we're consuming, they are seemingly, some of them, not all of them, benign, and they can work. And then that choice moves from a response to circumstances to a reaction, meaning it's mindless, somewhat impulsive, and just happens. And then those reactions become habits. And those habits, if we're not careful, become addictions. And that's where you find yourself in a place where you're in trouble and you're never fully present. Again, present being the goal. So in this final episode, what we're going to talk about is what are the healthy ways, what are the tools we can put in our tool kit forever to help us in those moments, both not experience stress, minimize the desire for control, but more importantly, what do we do to find presence? What are the things that we can do that are healthy as opposed to unhealthy? So I mentioned the unhealthy ones. And all of the things that we can do to combat that discomfort or stress and pressure are things that are in the realm of connection. So we want to connect, not consume when we're stressed. I'll say that again. connect, not consume when we're stressed. Consumption, talked about it. Connection. What does that mean? Connection, there's really two types of connection. There's internally connecting with ourselves and externally connecting with our environment. Before I dive fully into the healthy ways to connect, a quick PSA on Altum Fitness. So again, Altum Fitness is the brand. The Live Deep podcast is part of Altum Fitness. Altum Fitness is a fitness app connected to an amazing, thriving community. So we have the Altum Fitness app and the Altum Tribe is the community. Well, the Altum Fitness app goes live this week. We are kicking off that app with this amazing challenge. It's the very first alcohol-free April challenge. Look, I've never understood why. Everybody knows about dry January to start the year and sober October 10 months later, but there's really nothing in between, and I don't understand why not. And I think the perfect opportunity is alcohol-free April. Altum Fitness wants to put that on the map. It's the perfect month to reassess how our year is going, to look forward to the summer. A lot of people are focusing on fitness as the summer months come. Maybe you had a goal to cut back on your drinking, or maybe you just find yourself in general drinking too much. So for us, combine the two, do a dry month in April, jump into our app, get an amazing expert designed fitness program, follow it, jump into communities, stay dry for 30 days, get more fit and have fun. And we have an amazing prize. We are giving away a $2,000 home gym setup. Go to our website, altumfitness.com. You'll see a pop-up there. This gym setup, man, I'm jealous. I literally, it just crushes what I have in my basement. So I might wind up just getting one for myself either way. But there's that. We're going to give you a lifetime membership to our Altum Fitness app. And then we have some really cool surprise NA beverage prizes that we're going to give it away. So again, jump in, go to the website. That's altumfitness.com. Get in the alcohol-free April challenge. It's just $19.99. You get full access to our app. And of course, you get the chance to win the amazing prizes. So back into the content for today. So again, when stressed, connect, don't consume. That's when stressed, connect, don't consume. I'm repeating that like a weird robot because I want that, if there's one takeaway, to stay in your mind the next time you're stressed. So how do we connect? Well, the first way you can connect is internally, guys. And these are the things we've been talking about for the entire series. So as a recap of some of those things, but ways you can connect, mindfulness is an amazing way to connect. And for people that haven't practiced mindfulness or given it a try, I don't want you to think that you need to carve out an hour a day with a yoga mat at sunrise to practice mindfulness. It can be done in the smallest ways at first, just to train your mind to focus and be aware of itself and also what's happening around you. So mindfulness practices: go for a walk without your phone and just let your mind kind of wander and acknowledge your thoughts. That was one example. You could sit in a room, maybe take a break from work, get up, stretch real quick, turn off all distractions, and just try to focus with your eyes closed just for 5 minutes and just focus on your breathing. We talked about box breathing. That's equal breaths in, hold, exhale, hold. That's 4. Recommend start with 2 seconds. Move your way up if you can. But mindfulness practices are a great way to connect internally. Another way to connect internally is doing things like meditation. Now, those are normally, they're in the same vein as mindfulness, but they're a little bit longer in their application. Sometimes you can find guided meditations. As a matter of fact, in our app, we're going to have a bunch of guided meditations where you can sit down, where someone kind of talks. There's usually some calming music, but the intent is to bring you to a place of consciousness and awareness of your thoughts so that you can slow down and focus and really just start to get back to that presence. And that's what we're looking for. Reading is an underrated form of mindfulness because reading is a single track mind activity. I don't know about you all, but have you ever noticed, if you find yourself in a place where maybe life feels a little hectic, have you ever noticed that sometimes it can be hard to read? I've tried many times to sit down and just focus on a book, and I find myself reading line after line after line, and almost sometimes completing a whole page and having no idea what the heck I just read. It's because even though part of my brain was actively scrolling and reading, the other parts, just from a life of multitasking and stress management, all these things, was actively thinking about other things. And sometimes that's a good indicator for me that I really need to take a look at my life and slow down the pace and just take a step back. But find a way to incorporate reading. I had a great thinker that I follow online that just recommends doing 10 minutes of reading every day and just assess the difference that makes in your ability to focus and your ability to just kind of feel a slower pace. So reading is something, because we've been basically pushed to read and encouraged to read our whole lives, we just kind of overlook the therapeutic benefit that something as simple as reading could have. And I think this last one is an amazing tool, but think about decluttering your life. What does that mean? Well, there's two ways to declutter. There's physical decluttering and then digital. Just take a look. Do you have too many things? Are you trying to control too many things? Even something simple like, is there too much around your house where you have a cluttered environment that maybe makes you feel stressed or out of control? And just consider doing maybe 4 times a year, even twice a year, just like a spring cleaning and a fall cleaning, just to remove the physical things that might be adding to your overall kind of tension. And then a digital decluttering, man, this is a big one. Assess your phone, audit your phone. Do you have apps on there that just draw you to them and suck your attention and your time that you don't need? Pull those things away. Just get rid of them. Go through your phone, delete apps, delete distractions. Most phones these days have these amazing screen time boundaries that you can consider, but all in the vein of connecting internally. You just want to remove distractions and opportunities for anything to pull on your mind to keep you out of being present, and implement proactive things like mindfulness and meditation to help you feel more centered. I promise you, I guarantee you, if you take little steps in those areas, you will experience a life that feels more in what? Control, and therefore more present. That's a lot. We'll jump into external things. So what are the external ways that we connect? It's with people or your environment. Building a network of people around you, connecting one-to-one. There is no argument with the fact that personal relationships are incredibly valuable and therapeutic, especially if you're stressed. A note on that, for me, I take a lot of pride in being independent and not needing anybody. We could talk for hours about that. There's a lot of reasons why that is the way that it is. But when I find myself in a place where, man, I've got deadlines and stress and pressure, what I want to do is just throw up walls, go inward, work hard, and just shut down anything that's going to take time away from me accomplishing my goals. And the first thing for me historically has been relationships. My friends, they listen to the show, and my mom who listens to the show, they know, I mean, I can go weeks, months, and just lose myself and just not reach out and not respond, and then pop back in and say, here I am, like, how's it going? Nothing's changed. And a lot of my friends have had to learn that about me, that it's not an indication of the quality of my friendship, but it's really just who I've been. And what it is, that's my response to stress. I want to solve things. I want to feel in control. And unless I am feeling that way, I don't feel like I have time for relationships. And I couldn't be more wrong. It's this crazy thing where, sometimes I will begrudgingly say yes to a social event or something that I know is going to take me away from something I'm trying to work on. And I'm always going into it like, gosh, I shouldn't be doing this. And every single time I leave whatever that thing was, I feel energized. I feel my perspective changes for the moment. And it's the perspective is, and it's the truth, is that we are meant to do relationships with people. And in relationships and only in relationships are truly the best that life has to offer. Your relationship with a spouse or a partner, or your children or friends. I mean, that's where the purest, most intense forms of joy and love come from. Be intentional. Don't overlook the importance that relationships, even small things, can have in a therapeutic way, in a calming way, to bring you back to yourself. So connect externally in relationships. The other way is in the environment. Tons and tons of emerging evidence and research in this area around the impact that just going out in the sunlight, choosing activities that maybe you normally would do indoors, start to do them outdoors. see what that feels like. And it kind of blends the physical too. Like your surroundings matter when you're surrounded by artificial light and closed walls and no windows. That does something powerfully, instinctively to us. When you remove those things and just kind of get out in the open, there's something happening there. Find ways to get out more. People listening to this, it could be harder for some people versus others. I mean, I live in Colorado. If I go through that wall right there, it's wide open. And I can go for a walk and see wide open space and air, and it's easy. So if you can't do something like that, but just simply going outside matters. So maybe you typically take a certain meeting at a certain time that you can easily just get up from your desk if you work from home and take that same exact call walking. You're checking 2 boxes there. You're walking because walking is good. Steps are good. You're also getting outside and just smelling the air and connecting and things like that. So find little ways, little hacks for you to get outside more and connect with your environment. You'll notice a difference. And there's a multitude of other ways that you can do that. But getting outdoors is just something I couldn't recommend more. If you really, really want to be ultra productive here, exercise with other people outdoors. Try to do that. So me personally, just give you like my practical kind of plan here in 2024. I typically do strength training on Mondays and Tuesdays. And on Wednesdays, I do like a longer, kind of slower, moderate cardio event for my overall like cardio health and also for fat burning. And then Thursdays and Fridays, I do strength training. Saturdays, I do another outdoor cardio event. Now, it could be cycling, it could be jogging, it could be anything, depending on the weather. Sometimes it's indoors. But the point is, what I decided is, why am I using, and it's early in the morning, but why on Wednesdays and Saturdays am I using that as kind of like alone time to just process, which is good. If I can just invite a friend or maybe invite multiple friends, and then I'm using that same space that I already allocated and I'm filling it with relationships. And if I do it outside, I mean, now you're getting the best of both worlds when it comes to connection. So just another hack there to really find the space that you need to connect externally and internally. But again, if we're feeling stressed, we're feeling pressured, the antidote is we are not consuming, we are connecting. Not consuming, connecting. I hope that framework helps you. I hope that these tips help you. A key takeaway here is that if you're picking up on a pattern, that stress is the trigger that kind of sets off all of these negative emotions, these cascading emotions, and what to do with that stress, whether it's from a lack of control, failures perceived, whatever it is, how do we manage that? And there's 2 ways. How we respond defines our path forward, short-term and long-term. We will consume, seeking solace, release in temporary fixes, or we can connect externally, internally, and find healing and joy in the world around us. Again, I hope this is helpful. I hope you can apply this as you move forward in your life. We've been having this theme and I love it, and we're going to bring it forward in the show, but just closing on a motivational quote. I mean, if you haven't heard of Brené Brown, gosh, she's amazing. She's an author, look up some of her TED Talks, but just does such great work on, relationships and self-improvement and all those things. But a great quote from Brené Brown here: we are hardwired to connect with others. It's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. And without it, there is suffering. Let's choose not to suffer in silence or solitude, but to reach out, to connect, and in so doing, discover the truest form of relief from our stress. We are connecting to eliminate stress. So thanks for joining our show. Look, if you liked what you heard, if you found any benefit from this series or this episode, please help us reach more people, help give us the motivation and encouragement to keep putting out content that hopefully blesses people and help people. As you can follow the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, as they say, like us, and maybe send it to a friend and let them know about us. We're really here to just try to help people. If you have any topics or ideas that you'd like us to discuss on the show, we would appreciate it so much. Super excited going forward into April, the entire month that we're doing the Alcohol-Free April Challenge. We are going to be focusing on alcohol. We're going to have this amazing New York Times bestselling author come in and talk about the history of alcohol societally, culturally, and just kind of answer the question of where did this thing come from and what is it? I have a masterful sobriety coach that is going to come on and give us we talk about toolkit, but like give us like the tools to live a life of sobriety if that is your choice. And just some other awesome guests that are going to come on. So for out April, we're going to be focusing on alcohol to coincide with that challenge. Again, if you're looking to cut back alcohol, jump in the challenge. It's going to be amazing. You have a chance to win the prize and just meet some really, really awesome people. So thank you for those that have joined us for the whole series. If you haven't, I encourage you to go back. We're so grateful to have you as listeners. And we couldn't be more excited to look forward. So I hope that you find ways to find joy and presence in your life. Thank you for joining us. Live deep.